In the quaint village where sunlight danced on cobblestone streets, hope flickered like fragile candle flames in the hearts of devoted souls. Sarah, a mother whose strength danced together with grace, knelt in St. Benedict's chapel, her fingers clutching her rosary. The air was thick with the scent of blooming roses and desperate prayers. Her son, Ethan, lay gravely ill, untouched by the wisdom of doctors, his bright spirit dimming like a fading star. The village buzzed with hushed whispers, concern knitting its way through every household, hearts aching, spirits yearning for a miracle. As the church bells tolled solemnly, reverberating throughout the village, Sarah organized an urgent prayer vigil. Families flocked to the chapel, their voices lifting into a singular cry for divine intervention, filling the air like an ancient hymn. Candles flickered like a constellation of hope, casting a glow that danced on weary faces. They all gathered together, but not without shadows of doubt lurking among them. "Can miracles really happen today?" a voice questioned, tinged with skepticism. Sarah felt the weight of those doubts press against her heart, yet she held on to her faith with tenacity. With each hour that passed and each toll of the bell, Ethan's health declined further. Sarah sought alternatives, hope flashing in brief sparks but evaporating just as swiftly, overwhelming despair inching closer to her weary soul. In a moment of despair, she called out to St. Benedict, pleading for a miracle. The flickering candlelight illuminated her fervent determination, shadows lengthening across the chapel walls. Tears fell as prayers spiraled upwards, a collective wave of requests for mercy rising like incense, permeating the sacred space. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the night deepened and the chapel became a sanctuary of whispered hopes and fervent prayers, a palpable energy enveloped the villagers. On the verge of despair, Sarah's heart began to resonate louder with her faith, more powerful than the skepticism surrounding her. In that sacred stillness, the air thick with emotion, she felt divine presence stir, as if the heavens were listening. The realization washed over her like a warm embrace. Every prayer was a step closer to a miracle. Dawn broke, a bright whisper of new beginnings. Hope shimmered in the air, causing Sarah's heart to quicken.
Suddenly, a cry rang out from the back of the chapel. Ethan was stirring. A flicker of awareness sparked in his eyes, a breath that seemed to hold the essence of life itself. Gasps of astonishment filled the room, the villagers exchanging glances of disbelief and hope. But, amidst the joyous commotion, an unspoken question hung in the air. Was this the miracle they prayed for, or merely a fleeting glimpse of revival? Hearts raced, the weight of uncertainty pressing on them all. Would they embrace the miraculous, or let doubt cast its shadow once again? The chapel stood as a witness to faith stirred, an ephemeral breath of divine intervention lingering on the cusp of eternity. What would unfold next? Ethan's eyes slowly opened wider, reflecting confusion mixed with a glimmer of his old spirit. Sarah rushed to him, her heart pounding with a rhythm of hope and fear, while the other villagers crowded closer, their breaths held in collective anticipation. "Ethan, my love," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. The soft morning light spilled through the chapel's stained glass, bathing the scene in hues of reds and golds. The candles flickered in acknowledgement of the prayers they had carried so far. "Is this really happening?" a whisper floated amongst the villagers, followed by a wave of murmurs. Each person stood rooted, caught somewhere between doubt and belief, feeling the pull of divine magic in the air. Ethan blinked slowly, focusing on the warm faces surrounding him. He blinked again, a sleepy smile breaking through the confusion when he recognized his mother. For a moment, time stood still, as joy bubbled through Sarah's heart like spring water breaking through winter ice. "Can you hear me, my darling?" she urged, brushing dark curls from his forehead. The warmth of her touch seemed to awaken something deep within him. "Mom?" Ethan whispered, his voice a fragile note dancing on the air. Each syllable felt like the breaking of dawn after a long night, igniting flickers of joy in the hearts of all gathered. The townsfolk released a collective sigh of relief, their own doubts slowly melting like morning fog. As Ethan's gaze swept through the crowd, Sarah recognized a change within him. A quiet strength was returning, illuminating his once dim eyes. "I felt something," he murmured, his hand finding his mother's. "I wasn't alone." Those words hung in the air, weighty yet light, filling the room with conviction. It was as though they touched the very essence of faith. The villagers began to sing softly, their voices merging into a melody that filled the sacred space. It was more than a song. It became a bridge between heaven and earth, lifting spirits higher than the chapel's vaulted ceiling. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound," they harmonized, letting the power of sacred ground ground them, casting aside lingering doubts. But even as they sang, a flicker of uncertainty danced at the edges of Sarah's joy.
Had Ethan truly returned to them, or was this but a shadow of the miracle they yearned for? Her thoughts swirled like falling leaves, torn between blessings received and blessings yet to come. "Is he still sick? What does this mean?" came a voice from the back, echoing Sarah's silent fears. The air thickened with unspoken apprehensions. The song faltered momentarily as they turned their focus back to Ethan, who lay once more in the clasp of uncertainty. A moment of heavy silence filled the chapel. Faith met the hard wall of reality. Then Ethan smiled, a soft, natural smile that erupted like spring flowers breaking through frost. "I know I'm not alone now. I can fight this," he declared, determination replacing confusion, and it ignited hope like fire in their hearts. But the question still lingered like an echo. How much could his spirit rally? Was this a glimpse of divine healing, or the beginning of a greater battle? In Sarah's heart, a new kind of prayer began to rise. It was a prayer of strength, resilience, and a fierce love that could brave the unknowable. The villagers, sensing the shift in spirit, began to hold on tight to their brother in faith. They stood together, shoulders squared, eyes sweeping toward the altar. What would unfold next? Only time and faith could tell. Would their unified prayers bear fruit in the face of adversity? As they awaited a revelation, the impending journey loomed, fraught with both promise and uncertainty. Ethan's newfound resolve gathered energy in the silence, radiating through the chapel like the golden light spilling in from the stained glass. The villagers felt it, this holy electricity charging the space. They leaned in closer, eyes brimming with unwavering hope. "I can fight this," Ethan's words echoed, lifting the hearts of those gathered. But for Sarah, the ground was still shaky beneath her feet. "What do we do now?" she murmured, almost to herself, the question between them hanging like a soft whisper awaiting a response from heaven. Then, as if her longing echoed through the air, the chapel doors creaked open. A gentle breeze swept in, wrapping around the villagers, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and faith. A figure appeared, cloaked in a deep indigo robe. It was Father Louis, their priest, the one who had guided them through shadows and light. As he walked toward them, light seemed to follow, illuminating his countenance with an almost celestial glow. "Peace be with you," he intoned, his voice steady and reassuring. The villagers responded in kind, their hearts synchronizing with an unspoken understanding that something significant was unfolding. Today, we gather not only to mourn, but to celebrate the miracle of life. Ethan represents a flicker of divine hope, a testament of closeness to our Creator, he declared, raising his hands as if beckoning the heavens. Through unified prayer, we call forth healing and strength.
Let us not shy away from the weight of this request, but embrace it joyfully. With those words, the congregation joined together, a striking wave of voices rising toward the rafters. They began to chant, "Lord, we ask for healing. By faith we raise our hands." Each plea was like a pulse in the air, lifting higher, curling towards the vaulted ceiling, seeking a divine response. Ethan, feeling the warmth of their voices wrap around him like a woven blanket, closed his eyes. His heart beat in rhythm with theirs, hesitation slipped away, replaced by a serenity he hadn't felt in ages. He imagined layers of prayers ascending, entwined like ribbons in a breeze, reaching the very throne of grace. Suddenly, a light flickered at the altar. It was as though the candles flared to life, brighter than they had been before. A hush fell over the congregation as they turned to the altar, watching in awe. "It's a sign," someone whispered, their voice reverberating through the stillness. "God is showing us his presence." The murmurs grew, laced with astonishment and adoration. But for Sarah, something deeper tugged at her spirit. The flickering light wasn't just about miracles happening. It carried a sense of invitation, a beckoning into the unknown. "Ethan," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs, "what do you feel?" He breathed deeply, opening his eyes. "I feel a pull, like God is inviting me to fight, not just for myself, but for all of us. This is bigger." His statement hung heavy in the air with a weight both frightening and exhilarating. What if they were indeed meant for something greater than healing? What if this call to arms echoed a challenge far beyond their understanding? Father Lewis stepped forward, his presence grounding. "Let us rally our spirits around Ethan, leaning not just on ourselves, but on the one who heals. It is time to seek his face in earnest prayer," he urged. As the villagers responded, their hearts and spirits intertwined. The air shimmered with a divine force. This was not merely about Ethan's recovery. It was the dawn of a collective awakening, a call to deeper faith. But even as they prayed, an unspoken question loomed before them. What if the resistance they would encounter along the way was even greater than they anticipated? Would their faith hold firm against the trials that awaited? One thing was certain: the journey was just beginning, and they were prepared for whatever lay ahead. Ethan stood at the center of the chapel, encircled by the fervent prayers of his neighbors. Each voice joined in relentless harmony, carving a path through the earthy silence that had long settled over their troubled hearts. As his spirits soared with their chants, the flicker of the altar's light seemed to dance in response, drawing forth an even deeper longing within him. What if this is the beginning, he pondered silently, his breath steadying, grounding him further into a sense of purpose.
The weight of the moment pressed upon him, yet felt strangely liberating. Sarah, standing beside him, could sense the shift too. Her heart raced like a songbird beating its wings against the confines of its cage. Out of reverence and faith, she dared to step forward, allowing her fingers to graze the altar, marveling at the glow emanating from the flames of hope. "Ethan," she whispered, a tremor in her voice, "do you think we can truly change what's to come?" Father Louis, seeing the flicker of determination in their eyes, raised his voice. "God has not led us this far only to let darkness consume our hope. Stand firm, for even the smallest flicker can illuminate the deepest night." His words cascaded over the congregation like waves of encouragement washing away fear. As the villagers' hands rose higher, Ethan felt an electric surge through his veins. Suddenly, a rush of memories flooded his mind. The moments of laughter shared, the hugs given in grief, the prayers whispered in desperation. Each memory was a thread, weaving them closer together, solidifying a bond that seemed unbreakable in the face of adversity. Then came a hush. The chapel resonated with a sacred silence, as if the world paused to witness this prayerful moment. It became palpable, the air thick with an expectancy that tinkled on their skins. In this fragile space of shared belief, Ethan turned to Sarah. "Perhaps this is our calling, our chance. We must prepare." "What do we prepare for?" she asked, her eyes wide, reflecting the light from the altar. "For whatever lies ahead. The path is uncertain, but our faith will guide us," Ethan replied firmly. With renewed vigor, they gathered in a circle, clasping hands, uniting their spirits. Father Louis stepped into the center, beckoning them to bow their heads. "Let us pray not just for healing, but for divine wisdom to face what may come, and for the courage to uphold one another," he said, his voice flowing like a soothing river. The congregation responded, hearts synchronized in a heartbeat of faith. The words took on a life of their own, rising into the air like sweet perfume. The chapel swelled with a rich aroma of devotion, and Ethan could feel the walls pulse with a new energy. Unbeknownst to them, a pair of eyes watched from the shadows, filled with both concern and anticipation.
A figure cloaked in gray lingered just beyond the chapel's threshold, listening intently to the prayers that soared higher. There was power in their unity, and power always attracts attention, both light and shadow. As Ethan opened his eyes, illuminating glimmers flickered all around him, and he felt a profound connection to something larger than himself. "We're not just here for me," he proclaimed. "We're here to stand against anything that threatens the light within our hearts." The villagers nodded, their resolve forging a stronger foundation beneath their feet.
Yet a lingering thought clung to the edges of their spirit. Would their faith withstand the rising storm? Outside, the wind gathered strength, howling through the trees like a distant warning. What awaited them beyond those chapel doors? Would they face darkness or encounter unimaginable grace? They were on the precipice of a journey. The next chapter of their faith was waiting just on the other side. Ethan felt the weight of the moment settle around him like a velvet cloak. He glanced at Sarah, whose face mirrored the apprehensive blend of hope and fear. "We must step out together," he urged. "Strength isn't just in our words, but in our actions." As the villagers tightened their grip on each other's hands, a feeling surged within them, a quiet determination shaped through shared trials. They were no longer just individuals. They were a tapestry of unity woven by faith. Together, they took a collective breath, an inhalation of courage as they prepared to step into the unknown waiting outside. Father Lewis lifted his head and smiled gently at his congregation. "Trust in the Lord with all your hearts," he encouraged, his voice warm and inviting. "His promise is our anchor. Let that guide you through the storm." With eyes closed, Ethan felt the energy within the chapel vibrate with an ethereal glow. Suddenly, a gentle breeze flowed through the chapel, as if invisible hands were ushering them forward. The Spirit is with us, he realized in that instant, the conviction deepening in his chest. Ethan looked towards the chapel doors, their sturdy wood now a gateway to the world. "On 3, he whispered to his neighbors, excitement and trepidation mingling in the air. 1, 2, 3. The doors swung wide, revealing the twilight sky where the horizon kissed the darkness. The roar of the wind seemed to encourage them on, filling their hearts with a sense of adventure and divine possibility. As they stepped outside, it felt as if they crossed from one world into another. The wind caught the flicker of their lanterns, casting dancing shadows that seemed to chase the darkness away. Each step they took felt like a testimony of their faith, a demonstration that light could indeed break through shadow. But among the grove of trees surrounding the chapel, a figure moved silently. The cloaked individual watched, their heart racing with an unsettling mixture of dread and curiosity. Who were these steadfast believers braving the elements? What could stir them to such unwavering assurance? "Stay close," Ethan instructed, his voice warm yet firm. They marched forward and soon found themselves at the edge of town. Stray cats scurried beneath wooden carts as the evening settled deeper. The quiet townsfolk were peering from behind drawn curtains, eyes wide with intrigue. The spirit of their community had been loomed by uncertainty, and yet with each footfall of this ensemble, the path toward renewed hope materialized.
They gathered at the square, where a statue of Saint Benedict stood tall, a guardian of their faith. A flicker of recognition passed through the gathered villagers. "He can guide us," Ethan spoke again, his heart swelling with the unity around him. The statue, though carved of stone, felt alive, shimmering with sacred presence. Father Lewis began to play aloud, his voice gentle yet commanding. "Saint Benedict, protector against evil and bringer of peace, we beseech you to lend us your strength. Our hearts are open, our spirits are eager." As their voices rose, a light began to radiate from the statue, illuminating their faces with a warmth that nipped at the coldness of evening air. Ethan's heart swelled at this sight, bursting with the realization that they were participants in something more significant than themselves. But again those cloaked eyes in the shadows watched, their breath hitching at the power radiating from the crowd. A decision loomed heavy in the air,
as the winds twisted around them, carrying whispers of both encouragement and warning. What spirit lingered within the wind? Would they harness it for light, or would it pull them down into darkness? They stood on the brink, brave and radiant, as the first signs of night began to envelop them. The light emanating from the statue pulsed softly, mimicking the rhythm of their gathered hearts. Each flicker held a promise, enveloping them in an embrace of divine warmth. The villagers, now standing shoulder to shoulder, felt the weight of their unity. Resilience shimmered in their eyes as they collectively whispered prayers, asking for guidance, hope, and healing. Ethan closed his eyes, imagining the light filling every inch of his being. Thoughts of those lost to despair echoed through his mind. "Saint Benedict," he called silently, "even now, when darkness creeps so close, let your strength guide us." He felt a surge of courage pulse through him, a palpable connection to the spirit of Saint Benedict, and he knew this moment would be marked forever in their hearts. Father Louis continued to pray, his voice a steady beacon amidst the growing night. "We stand together, Lord, firm in faith. Let your will be done in us. Bring us together in truth. Pull us from fear into the light of your grace." Around him, the congregation murmured their amens, a chorus of voices lifting heavenward. Ethan could feel the air thicken with an expectant energy, like the stillness before a storm breaks. He opened his eyes, gazing into the faces of his neighbors, each one a story of struggle, of prayer, of waiting. Suddenly, the chilling winds shifted, swirling through the square with intent. An almost imperceptible voice echoed in his spirit, intertwining with visions of hope. "Step forward," it urged, like a whisper barely carried on the breeze. It stirred something innate in him, driving him to emerge from the formation and approach the statue.
"Let us walk boldly into what awaits us," Ethan declared, his voice rising above the tumult like a clarion call. With that proclamation, a ripple of courage surged through his fellow villagers. They followed him, breaking the circle as each person stepped forward to the light radiating from the stone figure, some clutching their rosaries tightly, others clasping hands filled with tremors of trust. The cloaked figure among the trees shuddered at the sudden shift in energy. Something powerful brewed among them, and curiosity weighed heavily in the air. They had been drawn to this moment, and a seed of doubt sprouted within. Should they remain hidden, or step forth and join this crowd overflowing with faith? Back in the square, the villagers began to chant a prayer, their words weaving through the cool night air like silver threads binding them together. "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Voices rose stronger with each line, courage layering upon trust. The statue, their ancient guardian, became a focus of their yearning hearts, compelling their souls to weave heaven and earth. As the prayer soared, Ethan thought he saw shadows flicker around the square, fleeting but charged with intent. What if this was more than a prayer? What if heaven itself was listening, ready to intervene? The possibilities ignited excitement, yet wisdom warned him, great change often comes with challenge. Then, as if in answer to their collective longing, the light intensified, illuminating the statue brightly enough to press against the dark. A wave of warmth swept through the gathering, a gentle tide pushing away fear and doubt. Ethan's heart raced with anticipation, and he couldn't deny the presence of the divine lingering just beyond their grasp. Sensing the urgency of the moment, he raised his hands toward the heavens. "Saint Benedict, we ask for your protection and your miracles," he beseeched, his voice trembling with heartfelt hope. "Lift us in this time of fear. Let us claim our healing." The wind swirled faster, dancing with the prayers like a divine echo, creating a symphony of faith resonating through the night. In the shadows, the cloaked figure felt their heart raced, caught between darkness and the beckoning lights spilling courage and hope. Would they join in? The stars twinkled brightly above, witnesses to the unfolding miracle. The night still thrummed with tension, waiting for a response. Would they embrace the healing and transformation that hovered in the air, or retreat into shadow once more? In that sacred moment, as faith and fear collided, the essence of divine possibility flickered like the lanterns around them, ready to be unleashed. What unexpected revelation awaited them next? Ethan felt the ground beneath him pulse as if it were alive, vibrating with the whispers of the prayers circling the square. The warmth enveloping him grew, encouraging him to harbor hope.
He glanced around, faces illuminated by the soft glow reflected back unwavering conviction. The air shimmered with palpable energy, and a few villagers began to step forward with him, responding to an unspoken call. "Together," he whispered encouragingly. The word passed like a current between them, magnetizing the community to the light. Each person stepped out of their fear, impelled by the rising tide of faith that now surged through the square. Father Louis sensed the shift and pressed on, guiding their voices deeper into reverence. Lord, we lift our hearts to you. Our struggles are known to you, and in this hour, may your peace wash over us. His voice soared, and the prayers spun into a single heartfelt plea, an offering that resonated beyond the stars. The cloaked figures stood frozen, heart thumping, feeling drawn yet terrified. They were draped in shadows, far from the light, yet something within them stirred. They tightened their hold on the fabric of their cloak, hesitant, but aware that the warmth of the villagers beckoned like a moth to a flame. A vision of their past cloaked in sorrow crept in, a past they longed to escape. Would stepping into the light mean relinquishing old pain? Ethan sensed a shift. Glancing toward the trees, he called out softly, "Whoever you are welcome here. Step into the light with us." His voice, filled with compassion, reached beyond the darkness. In response, the figure hesitated, then lowered their hood, revealing a weary face filled with yearning. Tears glistened in their eyes, mirroring the villagers' brightness. As they stepped from the shadows, the warmth that enveloped the villagers surged toward them, a magnetic pull of love and acceptance. The hush of the crowd deepened, breaths held in anticipation. A tingling sensation swept through Ethan as he felt the presence of the divine coiled tighter around them all. "In this moment, we are all family," he declared, shedding our burdens, our fears, and embracing courage. As they gathered closer, intertwining hands and clasping each other's shoulders, a new prayer flowed gracefully from their lips, a prayer of unity, healing, and release. It became a vibrant tapestry, colored by the depth of their collective hope. "Heal our hearts, transform our fears," they chanted as one. Suddenly, the statue blazed with an iridescent light, casting ethereal sparkles around the square. The ground shimmered, resonating with each now lofted prayer that wrapped like silken threads through the night. Gasps filled the air as a gust of wind swirled, reverberating with the rhythm of their chanting. Then, silence fell, a tranquil hush that seemed to echo through time and space. Ethan felt a surge, an invitation to delve deeper into their faith. "What is this calling?" he pondered, heart racing. "What greater purpose lies before us?" The square pulsed with life, a heartbeat of divine power, poised to unleash a revelation.
A glimmer of understanding flickered in Ethan's heart, ignited by the presence surrounding them. Could this indeed be a moment of miraculous healing? The cloaked figure stood amongst them, tears freely flowing now, the light casting a halo around their dreams. "What must we surrender to receive this grace?" they whispered, almost to themselves. As love filled the night and shimmering light danced around them, they all waited, with hope renewed. What awaited them at the threshold of this holy transformation? What secrets would the light reveal? A breathless energy lingered in the square, the divine presence wrapping around each villager like a protective embrace. Ethan stood at the forefront, heart wide open, driven by an insatiable thirst for something beyond understanding. The flickering light of the statue illuminated their faces, revealing expressions laced with awe and wonder. Each soul felt connected, and together they danced in that sacred moment, blending their fears into a chorus of faith. The cloaked figure, now visibly transformed, took in the scene. "Is this real?" they murmured. Doubt and hope played a delicate game within their heart. Would leaving despair behind unlock the beauty that faith promised? In surrendering their darkness, would they still be whole? Ethan stepped closer, his own doubt washing away as he sensed a divine whisper echoing through their surroundings. "Here in this circle of love," he said gently, "we discover our true selves. Each tear shed is a seed planted, every prayer a promise of renewal." The villagers nodded, some raising their hands in gratitude, the warmth of their connection growing with fervor. Father Louis, eyes closed and face lifted toward the glowing statue, urged them further. "In surrender, we find healing. In healing, we find our purpose." A wave of deep faith surged through the crowd, voices rising higher, infused with devotion.
We cast out fear. We invite peace. We embrace love. A rhythm began, a healing rhythm, pulsing with the beat of a unified heart. And then, just as the dark clouds of vulnerability began to lift, the statue shone brighter still. It felt as if heaven itself opened, revealing the unfathomable depth of compassion and mercy that beckoned from above. Ethan felt the stirring of something new, something extraordinary. "Can we dare to believe?" he shouted into the night, his voice trembling yet strong. "Can we surrender to this miraculous change?" With every soul now joined in earnest prayer, the air shimmered as a gentle wind spiraled around them, a divine caress stirring their very beings. In that moment, hearts began to echo with ancient truths. Answers whispered among the leaves, breaking the silence that had held them captive for so long. Someone in the crowd inhaled sharply, filled with the certainty that they were at the pivot of transformation. "Listen," cried out an elder, her voice rising with the intensity of the moment. "We are not just here to receive.
We are here to give, to release all that has burdened us." The words resonated like the tolling of a bell, vibrant and clear, urging them to act. As tears of release flowed, radiant light enveloped the villagers, seeping into the cracks of their souls. An ancient hope ignited. Each individual was more than they had ever imagined. They exchanged glances, filled with newfound resolve. What if reaching out meant not only healing for oneself, but for others too? The cloaked figure, emboldened by the shared strength, stepped forward, still glistening with the touch of divine grace. "I want to believe," they called out, voice steadying. "I choose to be turned to light." With open hands, they surrendered to the enveloping warmth, feeling burdens transform into blessings. Ethan's heart raced. "The miracle is here," he proclaimed, heart full as he looked at those gathering around him, their eyes bright with love and determination. In this moment, they were bound by a shared purpose, transforming their pain into peace. As the energy swelled, the village square burst into life with vibrant colors flowing through the air, each prayer dissolving barriers, enveloping them in sacred unity. The call had intensified, a divine demand echoing in the hearts of all. "Let us heal the world together!" The plea slipped from Ethan's lips with urgency, raw and potent. But before any response could rise, a thick mist enveloped them, obscuring the statue's shimmering glory. "What lies beyond this mist?" whispered a villager, eyes wide with uncertainty. The air felt heavy with another divine question waiting to be answered. What awaited them on the other side of the fog? What further tests would their faith endure? The mist wrapped around the villagers, thick and heavy, almost tangible. It felt like a veil layered with secrets, brimming with the unspoken hopes and fears of every heart present. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising tide of uncertainty. He extended a hand to the cloaked figure beside him, who stood trembling amidst the fog. "Breathe with me," he said softly. "Let's open our hearts to what comes." Slowly, the figure nodded, and together they inhaled deeply, drawing in the energy that surrounded them. It was cool but tinged with warmth, a sensation that felt both daunting and inviting. The villagers instinctively huddled closer, hands reaching out to grasp one another's, solidifying their unity as the mist swirled and danced around them. Suddenly, as if moved by a divine hand, the mist began to part, revealing a vision of a radiant landscape beyond. The air shimmered with ethereal light, colors blending in a symphony of hues that spoke directly to the heart. Laughter echoed softly from what seemed like a distant realm, filled with joy and peace. "Look!" someone in the crowd exclaimed, pointing into the gradually clearing space. Faces turned, a wave of awe traveling through the assembly.
The scene was unparalleled. A vast garden in full bloom, each flower vibrant with life, their fragrance a sweet invitation. But more striking was the figure at the center, a light so pure that it overshadowed the garden, radiating hope and serenity. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Could that be the promise we seek?" he whispered. "A glimpse of what faith can create?" As the mist continued to thin, an imperceptible stirring emerged from within the hearts of each villager. The realization of unity washed over them. Each individual was a thread in a magnificent tapestry, woven together through shared struggle and unwavering hope. "Come, let's approach," Ethan urged, his voice steady with newfound confidence. "In this moment, we are called to draw nearer to the light." He took a step forward, and with him the villagers followed, moving as one, bodies flowing like a river toward the divine beacon. With each step, the garden's beauty unfolded further. The lush greenery enveloped them, blessing their feet as they walked upon the soft, living earth. A warm breeze swept over them, intertwining with their thoughts, whispering encouragement, lifting burdens they didn't even realize they carried. "What if," began the cloaked figure, their voice full of wonder, "what if this is our transformation? What if this garden reflects the healing we seek?" Ethan's heart soared. What if we are being called not just to witness, but to tend this garden together, to nurture what is blossoming within us and around us? A collective murmur of agreement surged through the crowd. They looked at one another, eyes shining with a renewed purpose, reflecting the radiant light ahead. "Together we will grow," Ethan affirmed, feeling an electric energy gathering in the air. "Together we will heal our wounded spirits and the world around us." As they approached, the flowers began to sway as if in response, each blossom aligned with the rhythm of their hearts. Yet in the midst of this divine revelation, a shadow flickered at the edge of the garden. Ethan sensed a hesitation sweeping through the group. "What lies in that shadow?" someone murmured anxiously. Could fear still linger, even in the face of such hope? What would they find as they ventured deeper? The promise of healing was tantalizing, but was there a price to pay? The mysterious shadow beckoned them closer as the garden pulsed with life, ready to tempt them into uncharted territories of faith. It urged them to confront what they feared most. What awaited them in that shadow? Would they have the courage to face it, or would doubt extinguish the light? Ethan felt the weight of the moment pressing heavily upon him, the fog lifting but uncertainty lingering. The radiant garden beckoned, promising healing and hope, yet the shadow cast doubts that gnawed at their collective spirit. Will we let fear stifle our faith? He thought, determination growing in the face of uncertainty. "Together,"
he cried, his words ringing through the gathering like a trumpet of resolve. "We stand at a crossroads, united in spirit. If we trust in the light, we can face what lurks in the shadow." The villagers exchanged glances, hearts pounding. Clutching hands tightened, signaling their willingness to confront whatever awaited them. In that moment, fear transformed into courage as Father Louis stepped forward, his presence anchoring their wavering hearts. "Let us pray for strength," he urged, lifting his voice to the heavens. "Lord, grant us the audacity to confront our doubts. May the light within us drown the darkness that seeks to divide." As his words soared into the ether, the villagers began to chant, "Together! Together! Together!" Each repetition igniting a spark of hope in their hearts, banishing the shadows inching closer. The shadow stirred, revealing flickers of doubt and despair, but also hints of lost love, past traumas, and lingering regrets. It wrapped around them, a cold mist attempting to choke the warmth of their faith. Yet with each heartbeat, the garden's beauty flourished in response, radiating powerful light. "We are not defined by our past," Ethan shouted, his voice strong and unwavering. "We choose to lean into the love that surrounds us. Let the shadows see our strength." At that proclamation, the villagers surged forward, hearts pounding as they flooded the garden with their collective prayers. Golden light erupted, weaving through the petals of every flower, illuminating the ground with a promise of healing that cascaded like a waterfall. They were reclaiming their faith, embracing the truth. Laughter echoed in the distance, mingling with their chants, drawing them closer to the heart of the garden. "Ethan," the cloaked figure called out, newfound clarity flooding their voice. "Together, we can dispel the shadows, can't we?" With a breath of renewed determination, Ethan turned towards the shadow, locking eyes with it, refusing to back down. "You will not claim our spirits," he declared, each word an affirmation of the light surrounding them. "We are more than our burdens. We are a community forged in love and faith." The air crackled with energy as the villagers' voices intertwined, weaving together the strength of their testimonies. "Lord, let us be a testament of your healing. We will not be afraid," they cried, a united front against the creeping darkness. The shadow writhed, flickering as if threatened by the very essence of their faith. Every recount of loss and despair felt echoed within it, but the overwhelming might of their love and prayers began to melt those edges away, shaping a harmonious portrait of resilience and hope.
With each chant, the space resonated with warmth, the garden bursting into life even further. Flowers swayed, leaves shimmered, embracing the energy flowing from the villagers' hearts. We embrace healing.
They sang together, igniting their spirits in one glorious crescendo, their voices rising like the sun breaking through clouds. Then, in the midst of the uproar, light blazed from the center of the garden. A figure emerged, radiant and full of love. It was Saint Benedict, embodying the very essence of their prayers. "You have shown great courage," he spoke gently, his voice wrapping around them like a tender embrace. "As you confront your shadows with unwavering faith, the light shall always prevail." Tears of joy streamed down Sarah's face as the villagers stepped closer to Saint Benedict's luminous presence. The heaviness in their hearts began to lift, transformed by the truth of love overcoming darkness. "Seek not to escape your shadows," he continued, "but to transform them, for in revealing what you fear, you yourselves heal." His eyes shone with wisdom, encouraging them to embrace their journeys. With fervor igniting their spirits, Ethan turned to his fellow villagers, eyes ablaze with a fervent promise. "We will stand united as one. We will not shy away from our stories, but share them to bring forth healing. Together shall we cultivate the garden of our faith." "Yes," the crowd roared, voices rising higher, declaring their intentions to embrace their truths, even the painful ones, knowing they would heal collectively through every step. With newfound resolve, they each began to tell their stories, sharing their burdens, each testimony igniting the flame of hope, illuminating the path ahead, cascading through the garden with vibrant energy. As one spoke, others listened intently, their hearts open. The shadows curled back slighted, dimming as light filled the space, intertwining with the shared winds of their aspirations. The weight of sorrow seemed to lessen, replaced by an understanding that there was beauty and strength even in their struggles. Ethan's heart swelled as the village transformed, not merely by the allure of the radiant garden, but through the power encapsulated in their unity. They were not just witnesses of healing. They were active participants in a divine journey that intertwined lives and bridged souls, crafting a new narrative rich with faith, hope, and love. At last, the shadows retreated into a distant whisper, unsure among the strength of voices praising the light. In that sacred space, the villagers recognized their true purpose, to tend to each other, to uplift, to heal, and to nurture both their faith and their beloved community. As the mist finally cleared entirely, the garden unveiled its vibrant fullness. "We will not forget," Ethan vowed, as tears mingled with the light. "We will cherish the stories that weave us together, ensuring no one stands alone again."
And so, in the heart of that village, the anchoring truths of faith and community were reborn, breaking through both the darkness and the silence. The glowing promise of healing twinkled above, reminding them that divine grace was theirs to celebrate anew, a testimony forged in love and unwavering spirit. As they breathed in the fragrant blossoms, they felt an electric charge shimmer through the air, mingling their laughter with lingering grace. They had emerged victorious, carrying within them a legacy that would flourish for generations. And as they gazed at one another, they knew this unity was the true miracle. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Each thumbs up is a seed planted in the garden of our community. Comment below with your reactions and testimonies about the ending. Your voice matters in this sacred family. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of light. Don't wait even one more second. True servants of God understand the importance of spreading hope.